I'm gonna show you the secrets to making high quality, irresistible, slow motion food videos. Yes, I did injure my wrist doing CrossFit. I'm not very happy about it. I have an MRI on Tuesday. Get it all checked out to make sure everything's good. It's been like this for like 2 months and I still can't get it better. The perks of getting old. All that shenanigans aside, number one, for slow motion, you need a lot of light. Think about it. When you crank up your shutter speed to accommodate the higher frame rates, it's gonna make your scene a lot darker. So then what do we need to do in order to elevate the exposure of our scene? We need to either widen our aperture to make it bigger to allow more light to come into our camera, or we need to increase the intensity of our light source. Or you can always crank up your ISO, but I don't love doing this because it introduces a lot of unnecessary noise and grain to your image. I'm gonna be using a 2-light setup for this shoot. One key light that is nice and diffused and another spotlight behind to help separate the background from my syrup pour. Number two, let's talk about shutter speed. Now, the right shutter speed for the proper motion blur is dictated by our frame rate. So if we're shooting something at 120 frames per second, based on the 180-degree shutter rule, we would double our frame rate and that would give us 240. So 1/240 would be our proper shutter speed for 120 frames per second video. But since our camera doesn't have 1/240, we'll go to the next best thing, which is 1/250. We'll set it there and then we'll get perfect motion blur every time. This is just a really good rule of thumb. You don't have to follow it exactly. If you like a sharper, crisper shutter speed that kind of like blocks out the motion, or if you like something a little bit slower that slows everything down and adds more motion blur to your image, use what you like for your scene. Number three, set your focus ahead of time. So I'm always shooting on manual focus when I can, unless I'm doing like any type of run and gun situation where I'm filming at a restaurant or on location and I need to have that autofocus work for me. If I'm moving around behind the camera, then I'll just trust the autofocus to work for me. But if I'm shooting in the studio, 99.9% of the time, my camera is set to manual focus. So try to figure out where your action is going to be happening. I like using a business card so I can see the letters and the details on my monitor to make sure I'm in perfect focus. You can also use peaking to see exactly where your focus is on your scene. Set your aperture based on how much of your action you want in focus. So if you want a very shallow depth of field, set your aperture to something like f2.8, f3.2, f3.5, something like that. And that will allow you to get really, really narrow depth of field. Now, if you want your entire scene in focus and you still want to do slow motion videos, crank your aperture down to like an F9, F11, something like that. That will allow you to have much more of your scene in focus. And your lens will also have a lot to do with this. So if you're shooting like with a 90mm macro, your depth of field is going to be much, much shallower, even at greater numbers on your aperture. Hopefully that makes sense. For ISO, keep your ISO down as low as you possibly can. That will maximize how your image looks. It will keep the most amount of grain and noise out of your image as possible so it looks super clean. So just make sure you have a light that is super powerful for slow motion videos. So our scene is basically all set up. We have our light where we want it, our camera's on the tripod, it's set to manual focus. We have most of our settings dialed in based on what our scene is looking like right now. So now it's important to get our food in the frame and we're gonna go ahead and practice some action shots right now. And the biggest thing with slow motion pours, like anything else, is practice makes perfect. The more you do it, the better you're gonna get at it. Now, what I like to do with slow motion pours is try to create like a cinematic sequence. And what I mean by this is try to capture like a few, like 3 to 5 shots of kind of the same thing happening from different angles. So you can piece all those together in your editor and make it look and feel super cinematic and part of a greater story. Like one, I'll try to capture the syrup as it's coming right out of the spout, and then I'll capture it hitting the pancakes, and then I'll do a close-up of that. That's like an example of 3 shots right there that you can do instead of one just static shot that you have of a slow motion pour. So you're gonna end up doing this 3 to 5 times anyways. Also, if you miss focus on one of those 3 to 5 shots, then you have extra to pick from when you're editing to make sure that you get the best possible result. Those are just a few of the tips that have worked really well for me when it comes to slow motion videos. I hope this helped you out a lot. If it did, please hit subscribe. I'd appreciate it a lot. I absolutely love this community of photographers and videographers, so feel free to hit subscribe. follow me along on this journey, and I'm gonna try to lay it all out there and teach you guys as much as I possibly know about photo and video stuff, especially in the food realm of things, because that's my bread and butter. That's my specialty. As always, if you have any questions about anything, drop me a line at JebWest on my social channels. I'm more than happy to chat about anything that you have questions about over there. Find me on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, you know, all the good places except for like LinkedIn and MySpace and I don't know, Duolingo. What are the other platforms? That's all I really know. All right, you guys stay cool. Enjoy your day. Peace.